Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi boost to agri-economy and tourism in Jammu and Kashmir to inaugurate developmental projects worth over rupees 5,000 crore in Srinagar. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar participates in the first Raisina Roundtable in Tokyo, a key step towards enhancing track 2 exchanges between India and Japan. 3 sailors killed in first fatal attack on Red Sea shipping. US holds Houthis accountable for the deadly attack. And in sports, India takes on England in the 5th and final test match at Dharamshala. With an aim to boost agri-economy and tourism in Jammu and Kashmir, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Srinagar and participate in the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu and Kashmir program on Thursday. During the program, Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation about rupees 5,000 crore worth program, the Holistic Agriculture Development Program for boosting agri-economy and in Jammu and Kashmir. The program is expected to equip about 2.5 lakh farmers with skill development via dedicated Daksh Kishan portal. Under the program, about 2,000 Kisan Khidmat Ghars will be established and robust value chains will be put in place for the welfare of the farming community. The program will lead to employment generation benefiting lakhs of marginal families in Jammu and Kashmir. He will also dedicate to the nation and launch multiple projects related to the tourism sector worth more than rupees 1,400 crore under Pilgrimage Rejuvenation and Spiritual Heritage Augmentation Drive scheme. Prime Minister will launch the Chalo India Global Diaspora campaign with an aim to inspire the Indian diaspora to become incredible India ambassadors and to promote tourism to India. The campaign is being launched based on the clarion call of the Prime Minister, wherein he requested Indian diaspora members to encourage at least 5 non-Indian friends to travel to India. With more than 3 crore overseas Indians, the Indian diaspora can serve as a powerful catalyst for Indian tourism, acting as cultural ambassadors. All right, and to know more on PM Modi's visit, we are joined by Shabir Dar from Srinagar. Shabir, what are the key objectives of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Srinagar and his participation in the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu Kashmir program?
Yeah, this is the first visit of Prime Minister after 2019 when the Article 370 was revoked and Jammu and Kashmir was made into a union territory, and the Prime Minister has vision for Jammu and Kashmir, and the Jammu and Kashmir has always been on the top priority of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We know that today the Prime Minister is arriving here and addressing a mammoth rally in Buxy Stadium, like amid the high tensions.
All right. Shabir, can you just tell us the key objectives of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Srinagar and also his participation in the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu Kashmir program? Shabir, can you hear me? Well, we are trying to reconnect with our correspondent Shabir Dar from Srinagar with an aim to boost agri-economy and tourism in Jammu and Kashmir. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Srinagar and participate in the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu Kashmir program on Thursday. Also during the program, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate to the nation about rupees 5,000 crore worth program, the Holistic Agriculture Development Program for boosting agri-economy in Jammu and Kashmir also. The program is expected to equip about 2.5 lakh farmers with skill development via dedicated Daksh Kishan portal. Under the program, about 2,000 Kisan Khidmat Ghars will be established and robust value chains will be put in place for the welfare of the farming community. Well, we've been joined by our correspondent Shabir Dar from Srinagar. Now, Shabir, can you provide details about the holistic agriculture development program worth rupees 5,000 crore that Prime Minister Modi will dedicate to boosting the agri economy in Jammu and Kashmir?
Yeah, Jammu and Kashmir is essentially an agri state. Like agriculture provides 20% to the GDP and provides jobs to around 70% of the population of Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay.
And in this background, when Prime Minister Modi will launch the 5,000 crore holistic agricultural development program, it will definitely give boost to the agroeconomy of Jammu and Kashmir and push the economy of Jammu and Kashmir to the next level. In this holistic development program, the Prime Minister which will launch today, it ensures that 2.5 lakh farmers are given the sickle development training, and about 2,000 farmers, the farmer help groups, centers will be launched to ensure that the farmers of the Jammu and Kashmir are, well equipped with the sickle, and they are given the value chain, and essentially the boost to to their economy and to their incomes.
All right, Shabir, the Indian diaspora is the world's largest diaspora perhaps, and undoubtedly its impact is huge. Could you elaborate the goals and objectives of Chalo India Global Diaspora Campaign and the role of diaspora population in promoting tourism to India?
This Chalo India Diaspora Campaign is based on the clarion call of the Prime Minister, wherein he requested the overseas Indians to ensure that 5 of their friends, non-Indian friends, travel to India, which will give a boost to the tourism in India. We have over 3 crore overseas Indians, diaspora Indians, who, if they are seen as the cultural ambassadors of India, and they are being treated as incredible India ambassadors.
Indeed.
So yes. So the Prime Minister's vision of encouraging.
Definitely, Shabir. Definitely, this campaign will certainly boost tourism in the country. Thank you so much for joining in. And to further deepen India-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visits Japan. On Thursday, Dr. Jaishankar participated in the first Raisina Roundtable in Tokyo. Dr. S. Jaishankar also interacted with business leaders, think tanks and academia, building upon strong cultural and people-to-people ties.
As to powers that are so central to multipolarity in Asia, it is also in our common interest that the overall balance remains in favor of freedom, openness, transparency, and a rules-based order. The world will watch how we support each other in this shared goal through various relationships and initiatives. FOIP, which Prime Minister Kishida mentioned at length, is particularly important in this regard.
The minister stated that the world will watch how we will support each other in the shared goal through various relationships and initiatives.
Transformation of India makes us a more effective and credible partner. Whether it is the ease of doing business, infrastructure development, ease of living, digital delivery, a startup and innovation culture, or shaping the international agenda, India is clearly a very different country today. This is important for Japanese to recognize.
During his visit, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar to hold 16th India-Japan Foreign Ministers Strategic Dialogue with his Japanese counterpart. The two ministers are expected to discuss issues of bilateral, regional and global importance and exchange views on cooperation for a free, open, inclusive, peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific. India-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership has further deepened in the last decade in areas such as defense and digital technologies, semiconductor supply chains, clean energy, high-speed rail, industrial competitiveness and connectivity. EAM's visit and meetings in Tokyo will provide strategic guidance to our functional cooperation in these areas. All right, and for more on this, we have Chris Gilbert joining us from Tokyo. Chris, what specific areas of cooperation between India and Japan will be discussed during the 16th India-Japan Foreign Minister Strategic Dialogue? Well, both the countries share special strategic and global partnership for that matter.
Yeah, well, I think you've summarized it all very well. It's going to be broadly the same discussion as what has been happening during the Raisina roundtable, which is still going on at the moment and throughout Thursday. The main areas are going to be focused on geoeconomics, geopolitics, supply chain resilience, circular economies, green transitions. And for Japan in particular, catching up on AI, renewable energy, EV batteries and semiconductors. Both of these countries, India and Japan, have been looking to invest billions of dollars in semiconductor manufacturing in particular. It's something that Japan has slipped behind during the pandemic, as it became somewhat resource scarce. But also, Minister Jaishankar has been calling on Japanese companies to respond faster, to catch up with the times and to improve investment in India. So that, alongside the very pertinent defense issues at stake, is going to be on the agenda, not just throughout today, but throughout the rest of the trip.
All right, Chris. How do both countries envision contributing to a free, open and inclusive, peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific region through their partnership?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think the US will be watching this very closely because it has two, strategically important partners engaging here in Tokyo. Japan, of course, is more than an ally to the US. It effectively, when it comes to policy, is somewhat of a proxy for the US here in the East Asia region. India, of course, is not just a growing economic power, but is also a geopolitical bridge, being both, a partner in many ways in defense with the US and Japan, and economically with those countries as well, but also a member of the BRICS bloc. And so, these two countries in particular, the relationship between them is incredibly important. But if we just look for a second at that phrase, a free and open Indo-Pacific, and what that actually means, it was a phrase that was coined by former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan. It effectively is a catch-all reference which has been adopted by G7 countries, as well as countries like Australia, to refer to the current status quo and the current economic order. Now, if we are to look at the discussions around maintaining that and protecting that, it is about supply chain resilience. It is about what the US calls de-risking economies, so these economies are not dependent on resources from countries which may jeopardize them geopolitically. And it is about working together to secure supply routes, particularly through the areas near South China and Taiwan. And so these will be the areas of cooperation that Japan and India are exploring in particular.
All right. Chris, like I said, both the countries, they share special strategic and global partnership. Can you elaborate on the advancements made in bilateral relations between both the countries, India and Japan, over the past decade, particularly in sectors such as defense, digital technologies and, clean energy?
Well, those are the main contours, that those areas you mentioned that Minister Jaishankar wants to focus on throughout this trip. Look, if you look at the relationship 10 years ago, these issues weren't particularly on the table compared to now. The geopolitical landscape has changed drastically, and Minister Jaishankar has said that agreements such as the Quad between India, Japan, Australia, and the US are still in their early stages and may become even more important and pertinent in the years to come. And I think also you mentioned new technology. The memorandum of cooperation last July between India and Japan was, I think, a breakthrough watershed moment, which has seen, as I mentioned, billions of dollars in new investment and new JVAs, new joint venture agreements between semiconductors in Japan, like Renesas and Shiji Power in India. There's also, an interest in the Japanese government of investing heavily in India going forward. India, for its part, is saying, well, look, now we have 11 industrial parks dedicated to Japanese countries. There is a lot of room for growth here. So it is a far cry from what the relationship was 10 years ago. But it sounds from the minister's comments, it is not entirely to India's satisfaction yet. They see room for growth. They see room for a vital relationship to become stronger. And I think Minister Jaishankar, from the comments he's made, has clearly expressed that he wants to see that happen.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Chris Gilbert, for your analysis. All right, and still to come on DD India News Hour. The war in Sudan threatens to trigger the world's largest hunger crisis. Stay with us. We will tell you more about it. India is reportedly looking to get the European Union to water down some of its important regulations. China has accused the United States of using the Philippines as pawn in the South China Sea. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Indian warship responds to distress call from Liberian-flagged merchant vessel in Gulf of Aden. The Indian Navy's warship INS Kolkata provided assistance to the merchant ship. In the early hours of Tuesday, a specialist firefighting team comprising 12 personnel of the Indian Navy embarked the merchant vessel and provided assistance in extinguishing the residual fire and smoke. The ship was reportedly attacked by a suspected drone or missile, causing a fire. The Indian Navy on Wednesday said the cargo ship's 23-member crew, including 13 Indian nationals, are safe. India's response demonstrates its commitment to global maritime security. India is reportedly looking to get the European Union to water down some of its important regulations as the two sides continue their free trade agreement negotiations. India and the EU have been trying to get a deal over the line since 2021, but analysts say numerous issues remain to be resolved. Here's a report.
Indian officials are reportedly speaking to their European counterparts to resolve outstanding trade issues in the pharma, agricultural and electrical components sectors. The European Union's carbon tariffs and anti-deforestation regulations appear to be making things difficult, though. Some reports suggest that they are blocking about 10% of Indian imports from entering the European markets. Officials say the EU's regulations could be too much for businesses from the developing country, and if the businesses pass on that cost of compliance to the customers, it could make them uncompetitive. Now, analysts believe that this is one of the biggest reasons why India-EU trade has broadly remained stagnant over the past few years. Though the EU remains India's third biggest trade partner, estimates suggest that some Indian imports have actually declined. Reports say agricultural imports in the past 5 years came down to $3.12 billion in the financial year 2023 from $3.36 billion in 2018. The European Union says it's committed to regulating imports, to ensuring quality, but also to making sure that it hits its sustainability targets. Now, officials are saying that the negotiations are in their final stages, but with a lot of the issues still remaining to be ironed out, it's unclear when this whole thing is going to be finalized. Shan Ged in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
A Houthi missile attack on a commercial ship in the Gulf of Aden killed at least 3 people on Wednesday. US Central Command said the first fatalities reported since the Iran-aligned Yemeni group began a campaign of strikes against shipping in the area. 4 other crew members were injured, with 3 in critical condition. and the vessel sustained significant damage, US Central Command said in a statement. Houthis claimed responsibility for the attack, which set the Greek-owned Barbados-flagged ship True Confidence ablaze around 50 nautical miles off the coast of Yemen's port of Aden. Meanwhile, State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said United States will continue to hold Yemen's Houthis accountable for attacks on international shipping and declined to specify whether the attack would spark a new round of retaliation by Washington.
The Houthis have continued to launch these reckless attacks with no regard for the well-being of innocent civilians who are transiting through the Red Sea, and now they have unfortunately and tragically killed innocent civilians. And so the United States will continue to hold the Houthis accountable for their attacks, which have not just disrupted international commerce, not just disrupted the freedom of navigation in international waters, and not just endangered seafarers, but now tragically killed a number of them. So we will continue to hold them accountable, and we call on governments around the world to do the same.
Criminal gangs wreaking havoc in Haiti are pushing to unseat the country's Prime Minister Ariel Henry. One of the gang leaders has warned of a civil war if Henry does not step down. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, according to the World Bank. DD India's Latin America correspondent Maritime has more details.
Haiti is facing escalating violence, with criminal gangs controlling about 80% of its capital, Port-au-Prince. Heavily armed civilians are demanding the resignation of the country's Prime Minister, Ariel Henry. Local gangs have gathered in a powerful alliance, saying they would fight to topple Henry and establish a new system in Haiti. Jimmy Cherisire, a notorious gang leader, said the country would plunge into a civil war that will end in genocide if the Prime Minister remains in power. The 46-year-old former police officer is better known by the alias Barbecue. He has become one of the most prominent faces of the revolt that has led to the escape of about 4,000 inmates from 2 jails and several attacks on key locations, including the airport. Since 2021, when Haiti's president was assassinated, there has been an interim government led by Prime Minister Ariel Henry. Presidential elections in Haiti have been expected since 2019, but political instability and unrest have played a role in the delays. The PM traveled to Africa last week, where he signed an agreement to bring an international security force to intervene in the conflict. Currently, he is in Puerto Rico trying to find a way to return, but most flights to the Caribbean nations have been canceled. The United States says it is monitoring the situation, stressing that it is crucial that the Prime Minister be allowed to return. In Caracas, Maritime reporting for DD India.
Dominican Republic steps up security after Haitian gang leaders warned of civil war. The Dominican Republic said on Wednesday that it has reinforced security at its shared border with Haiti. In a recorded statement shared on social media platform X, Dominican Presidency spokesperson Homero Figueroa, he said representatives of the Dominican Armed Forces had reinforced border surveillance with the transfer of additional personnel and equipment necessary. In the United States, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has suspended her bid for the White House, clearing the way for Donald Trump to take the Republican Party nomination. Haley's departure means November's presidential election will be a rematch between Donald Trump and Democratic President Joe Biden. DD India correspondent Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Well, it's 243 days until the US presidential election, and we already know that it will be a rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the same two candidates from the 2020 election 4 years ago. That became the state of play after Trump's rival Nikki Haley suspended her campaign on Wednesday. She dropped out after it became clear there was no viable path to her clinching the Republican Party nomination, winning it from Donald Trump. She lost 14 out of the 15 states that were up for grabs on Super Tuesday. In her speech to supporters in her home state of South Carolina, when she announced her suspension of her campaign, she didn't endorse her rival Donald Trump. She instead said it's now up to him to earn her voters. And it's really a case of what those voters now decide to do that could swing the election in November, either in Donald Trump's favour or Joe Biden's favour. Because they have a choice. Do they support the former president? Do they stay at home? Or, with their more moderate views, do they instead decide to side with Joe Biden himself? Both of the candidates have already made a play for her supporters and voters, putting out statements in which Biden said there is a place for them in his campaign, with Donald Trump saying that he invites Haley's supporters to join the greatest movement in our nation. However, we do have a rematch on the cards coming up in November, a rematch that really many voters in the US didn't want. The vast majority of polls have showed it was a rematch that Americans feel should not be taking place. They want different candidates this time around. There are lingering doubts about Joe Biden's age at 81. Whether he's young enough to run the country again for another 4 years. And there's considerable protest within his own party for his pro-Israel position. Many Arab Americans and pro-Palestinian voters who voted for him in 2020 say that they cannot support him again. And on Trump's side, there is lingering doubts about his upcoming criminal trials, the first of them starting later on this month in New York. Those are problems that voters now need to consider over the next 8.5 months as they decide who they want to vote for in November. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
The war in Sudan threatens to trigger the world's largest hunger crisis, according to a warning by the United Nations Food Programme. Half of Sudanese population are facing food insecurity as the conflict covers large areas and aid delivery is hampered. DD India's Naba Mohideen reports from Port Sudan.
The conflict in Sudan is having devastating consequences for millions of people across the country. The war and its impact on the economy have contributed to a hunger crisis, where 25 million people now are in need of food aid, according to the World Food Programme. Poor harvests, climate change, and obstacles to aid delivery are exacerbating the situation. About 5 million people are experiencing emergency levels of food insecurity, with more than 3/4 of them trapped in areas where humanitarian access has been hampered or impossible due to the ongoing fighting. More than 12,000 people have been killed since the war broke out last April. About 10.7 million people are now displaced in the country by this and previous conflicts. And that has triggered the world's largest internal displacement of people. Many countries, including the United States and Saudi Arabia, have tried to mediate between warring generals to bring an end to Sudan's war without reaching a resolution. The civil war shows no sign of easing after nearly a year of fighting, and experts believe that the number of people facing a hunger crisis will grow throughout the year 2024. Naba Mohideen in Port Sudan, reporting for DD India.
And let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Around 175 firefighters with 30 fire engines, in fact, were tackling a blaze in East London Police Station. Thick plume of smoke rises from the building, which started burning. Local police said it was not yet aware of any injuries resulting from the incident and that policing in the area was continuing as normal. New Mexico jury on Wednesday found Rust film armorer Hannah Gutierrez guilty of involuntary murder, ending a trial over Hollywood's first on-set fatal shooting in nearly 30 years. Jurors acquitted Gutierrez on a second charge of evidence tampering. Hannah could face up to 3 years in state prison.
Thank you.
Conservationists raises concerns over proposed road project that is expected to run through the popular tourist destination Aberdare National Park in Kenya. The construction of the Mau Mau Road project would be disrupt the ecosystem and communities of the region that rely on it for water and hydroelectric power generation. Oscars buzz bills as the Academy Awards officially rolled out the red carpet for Hollywood's biggest night. Producers decided to go back the classic and red carpet with hanging lighting equipment and adorning the catwalk. The Oscars takes place on Sunday at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles, California.
Jumping for joy.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un orders heightened war preparations. New York is deploying security personnel to help stem a surge in violent attacks on the city's subway system. World gears up to celebrate the International Women's Day on March 8th, a day to celebrate the achievements of women. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's boost to agri-economy and tourism in Jammu and Kashmir to inaugurate developmental projects worth over Rs 5,000 crore in Srinagar. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar participates in the first Raisina Roundtable in Tokyo, a key step towards enhancing track to exchanges between India and Japan. 3 sailors killed in first fatal attack on Red Sea shipping. US holds Houthis accountable for the deadly attack. China has accused the United States of using the Philippines as a pawn in the South China Sea as relations between the two Asian nations have deteriorated over their territorial dispute in the region. Manila says that Chinese Coast Guard vessels caused 2 collisions with Philippine boats and fired water cannons at one of them during a resupply mission. DD India's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The US State Department condemned China's repeated obstruction of Filipino vessels undertaking lawful maritime operations in the South China Sea. The Chinese Foreign Ministry defended its actions, saying it had been taking, quote, control measures against the Philippines' illegal intrusion into waters that it claims, as well as accusing a Philippine ship of intentionally ramming a Chinese one and saying that the Philippines should not let itself be at the mercy of the United States. Well, the US has said it stands with its ally, the Philippines, and has reaffirmed that the mutual defence treaty they share extends to armed attacks on Philippine armed forces, public vessels or aircraft, including those of its Coast Guard, anywhere in the South China Sea. Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that though he viewed the actions against the country's Coast Guard with great alarm, it is not the time or the reason to invoke that treaty. Well, Tuesday's collisions follow similar incidents in December, with hostilities between Beijing and an increasingly assertive Philippines worsening. China lays claim to almost the entire South China Sea, ignoring competing claims from several Southeast Asian nations and an international arbitration ruling to the contrary. In Washington, Kate Fisher, reporting for DD India.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis were visiting the Black Sea port of Odessa on Wednesday when a Russian missile hit the infrastructure close enough for leaders to see the strike. The attack occurred at an estimated 500 to 800 meter distance from the delegations. The strike killed 5 people, a Ukrainian Navy spokesperson said. And Greece will continue standing at Ukraine's side, Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said on Wednesday after meeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Black Sea port of Odessa, where the leaders heard a blast from a strike nearby. Zelensky and Mitsotakis visited a residential building, the site of Russian drone attack on March 2 that killed 12 people. Mitsotakis said that during this tour, the sirens had sounded and they heard a big explosion as they headed towards their cars. International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi held talks over safety at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant with Russian officials on Wednesday. Grossi held talks with state nuclear power company Rosatom, where safety at Zaporizhzhia was the main focus, citing Rosatom. He also had discussions with the Russian defense and foreign ministers. Zaporizhzhia has lost its connection to all its external power lines 8 times in the past 18 months. While one of its main power lines is currently functioning, the IAEA says the situation at the plant remains precarious. One of the plant's 6 reactors, according to the IAEA, needs to be kept in a hot shutdown mode in order to produce steam required for nuclear safety, including the processing of liquid radioactive waste in storage tanks. At the briefing, Grossi told reporters the talks were intensive. International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi met Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday after talks with energy officials over safety at the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Putin told Grossi he was prepared to discuss particularly sensitive and important issues on the agenda and do everything to ensure security anywhere we are in one or another involved in nuclear energy.
I'm very glad to see you again in Russia. I know that you are already had a deep conversation with your colleague, Mr. Likachov, Director General of State Nuclear Energy Corporation of Russia, Rosatom. Russia continues its very active cooperation with IAEA in many areas. We are one of the leaders in this field in the world.
North Korea leader Kim Jong-un orders heightened war preparations. State media said the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected field training of troops at a major military operations base in the western region of the country and ordered heightened readiness for war. According to the report, Kim said the military must dynamically usher in a new heyday of intensifying the war preparations in line with the requirements of the prevailing situation. The tour of the base came from the start of annual combined military drills by US and South Korean forces on Monday in the south. New York is deploying state police and the National Guard to help stem a surge in violent attacks on city's subway system. There have been 3 homicides so far this year, and last year 570 assaults were recorded. DD India's William Denslow reports from New York.
New York's subway system really are seen as the veins and the arteries of the city. Often on any given day, more than 4 million people can use New York's subway system. New York's governor, Kathy Hochul, says that she is seeking to restore peace of mind for people that rely on the subway system. To do that, she says she's announced a 5-point plan. That includes bringing in 1,000 members of either the National Guard or state police to assist the New York Police Department, the NYPD, with bag checks at a number of subway stations around the city. Also to see more security cameras installed, as well as to try and pass a bill that would stop people convicted of assault from riding the subway system. She'd also seek to improve connectivity between various government agencies and boost outreach efforts. She says these types of measures are absolutely vital. It comes as 2023 saw the highest number of assaults on the subway system since at least the year 1996. If we look at January's statistics, well, we saw a 45% spike in crime on the subway system compared to that period a year ago. There have already been 3 homicides recorded on the subway system this year. Just this week, 3 attacks at least have been recorded, including one involving a hammer. Not everyone, though, is supportive of the governor's steps. Some groups say that this will lead to a militarization of the MTA, those in charge of the subway system, and they say that this essentially is overreach by law enforcement and government agencies at a time where many crime metrics in the city are actually trending downwards. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
And heavy rains disrupted normal life in southern Bolivian town bordering Argentina. The government said Monday that 43 people have died and 2 are missing during the devastating rainstorms that have battered the country in recent weeks. Extreme weather has plunged many Bolivian regions into water since February. Students grapples to cross flooded streets on foot after rain caused rivers to overflow and swamp the city. And heavy snow and rain hit parts of southwestern Pakistan. The Pakistani Meteorological Department claimed such an intense weather spell in March was unusual and could be attributed to some extent to climate change. Authorities predicts heavy rain, thunderstorms and snowfall over hilly areas of the region. Ahead of International Women's Day, a day to celebrate the achievements of women in every field. To mark this year's International Women's Day, let's take a look at stories dedicated to girl power. And as the world gears up to celebrate the International Women's Day on March 8th, India's leading low-cost carrier Indigo Airlines have redeveloped the Guru Dronacharya metro station in Gurugram in the Indian National Capital Region, depicting girl power. DD India correspondent Dibyendu Mondal spoke to the artist to understand the challenges and motivation for women artists in this field. Listen in.
As we celebrate the International Women's Day here at the Guru Dronacharya metro station in Gurgaon, you see how the power of women has been depicted by Indigo Airlines, and I'm joined by the artist who has painted these walls. What inspired you to make these paintings? What was the idea behind it?
The idea was to work around girl power. Indigo boasts a 44% workforce of women and wanted to represent that in some way, just how empowering that is.
And how long did it take for you to complete these entire paintings?
It took me 45 days to do this. Yeah.
And also, as we celebrate, the International Women's Day, how do you look at that, of the women force coming out and taking up challenging roles as well?
I think it's very empowering. I mean, imagine for a young girl to come and see that, any dream is possible. Like I would say when I'm painting, I have a lot of fathers bring their little kids just to watch me paint because I'm still a woman on the streets painting and enjoying myself. So I think that is power. Just
also, as a women artist in this field, how has been your experience? What were perhaps some challenges you could have faced and how did you overcome them?
I've been doing this for more than a decade now, so I guess my initial phases were we would go around, different people's homes and knock on their doors and try to get spaces to paint in the public and just overcoming that. But other than that, I'm not worried about the heat, the mess. I love standing on the streets, I love drinking tea, I love having random conversations, so I'm not uncomfortable. You can put me anywhere in India and I'm comfortable.
Women are now leading many of the aspects, not just here, but also in fact, all aspects of life, in all jobs as well. But thank you so much for talking to Doordarshan. With Ramakant, this is Dibyendu Mondal from New Delhi for DD India.
International Women's Day is celebrated every year on March 8th, a day to celebrate the achievements of women in every field. To mark this year's International Women's Day, India's low-cost carrier Indigo Airlines have dedicated it to a girl power. To speak more on this, DD India correspondent spoke to Indigo Airlines captain Priyanka, who spoke about her achievements and the challenges she faced. Listen in.
As the world celebrates the International Women's Day, I'm joined by Captain Priyanka from Indigo Airlines. Welcome to Doordarshan, ma'am. We are at a station which is, depicts the girl power by Indigo. You are a captain and a girl who is flying big jets. How has been your experience?
We are already doing that. Indigo has the highest number of female pilots in the world. So I think we are already reaching where you mentioned. It's incredible. It's very respectable. It's fulfilling, thrilling. It's full of adventure.
Well, of course, if you could also tell us about the challenges many women face in an industry which was probably dominated by men just some time back.
It is still dominated by men. Companies like Indigo is definitely taking the right steps to change that thought process. We are challenging the stereotypical thought process, and we are able to see a lot of women in aviation workforce. That is definitely very challenging, but I think women of today are very clear what they want. They know where they want to reach in life. They know where their space is, and they are working hard towards it. It's incredible to see that.
I'm told that the recent depiction inside the station here where we are standing depicts the women power of India. If you could tell us more about it.
I personally feel this word women power, girl power is basically an amalgamation of all the women that have been through this journey all over the years before us. They've paved the path for us so that today here we can stand tall and say that, oh, I'm proudly standing in front of you as the first female pilot from Amravati.
Well, thank you, Priyanka, and I'm sure many would be inspired by looking at your career, graph, and we hope that more women take to flying. With camera person Ramakant, this is Dibyendu Mondal from New Delhi for DD India.
The 5th edition of National Youth Parliament Festival 2024 represented equal participation of women. Out of thousands of participants, only 29 made it to the parliament to represent their state, and interestingly, out of top 3 winners, 2 are women. All the winners extended special wishes to the women on International Women's Day and expressed their hope of having more representation of women in coming years at the parliament as well. Listen in.
To give my message on Women's Day, I must tell all of you that I have been raised by wonderful women, including my mother, whose name is Shakuntala Devi. And I believe that today when I live in this nation, when women don't only lead houses, they lead the army of this nation, they will soon lead the parliament, they will soon lead the economy and society of this nation. Today, it's a time that as young people, we imagine a day where a day like National Women's Day is no longer required. Women develop so much in this nation that men demand asking for National Men's Day. That is my dream for this Women's Day in this nation.
Congratulations for the upcoming Women's Day. When we think about women, they are not just the homemakers. They are the best savers in the country. Because when there is peace in the home, there is peace in the world. So it's right time to appreciate and acknowledge the deeds of our women. Happy Women's Day.
Haryana's Yatin bagged first place at the 5th edition of National Youth Parliament Festival, and Tamil Nadu's Vaishni bagged second position. DD India's Deepika Mehto had an exclusive interaction with the winners who expressed their happiness and also thanked the government for giving them the opportunity to represent their state.
Youth Parliament Festival concludes today with the top 3 winners whom we can see. Every speech was unique in its own way, but these 3, they took the winning mementos with them, and they are taking a lot here from today. Let's talk to them. This unique, first of all, format. What was your experience? What was your learnings when you were, scripting your entire script to the time when you came in front of the Union Minister and the Lok Sabha Speaker himself and you said it all?
Well, thank you for your question, ma'am. Honestly, it is a dream come true for somebody like me who has come from a rural background to stand in this vulnerable hall where once Nehru and Patel and Dr. Ambedkar stood. When I was preparing my speech, my bone of contention was to speak my heart out. What I really wanted to say, and that's what I did. And hopefully I was able to reach the hearts of the judges and the contestants.
We have a winner from Tamil Nadu also. First of all, how the experience has been for you in Delhi and, witnessing this glorious moment for yourself, and that too in historic Parliament's Central Hall.
It's indeed amazing. Words can't describe the feeling which I'm feeling now. Actually, I'm just really got amazed by the simplicity and the majesticity of our ministers. How simple are they, and the way they spoke, everything is just amazing. And in this moment, I must congratulate, I must express my gratitude for the Honorable PM of our nation, because this program is the brain. He's the brain behind this program. And the facilities which we have encased here, the hotel facilities and even the flight travels, everything is amazing. We haven't even expected this much. Everything is amazing, the hospitality, every moment, people are so lovely. And I must thank the government for all these arrangements. Thank you so much.
The winners who are saying that sooner a day will come when India will become the Vishwaguru, the leader of the country. We are already seeing that the past 9 years, 10 years have been really transformational in India's journey. And so now the youth is all set with the upcoming elections. Also, they are all set to represent India and cast their vote, say what they have to say at the parliament, and also involve all the people from all across the country. With camera person Pramod Negi, this is Deepika reporting for DD India, New Delhi.
US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has reinforced expectations that the United States Central Bank would reduce its benchmark interest rate this year, but warned that continued progress on lowering inflation was not assured. On Wednesday, Powell noted that the US economy appeared nowhere near the point of falling into recession. He added that the Fed was on a good path to achieve its soft landing, which inflation continues falling to its 2% target, while the economy grows and the unemployment rate, currently 3.7%, remains low.
If the economy evolves broadly as expected, it will likely be appropriate to begin dialing back policy restraint at some point this year. But the economic outlook is uncertain, and ongoing progress toward our 2% objective for inflation is not assured.
Egypt's central bank governor Hassan Abdullah said the country is aiming for a single-digit inflation rate in the medium term after the bank let the currency trade freely and hiked rates by 600 basis points at an unscheduled meeting on Wednesday. Abdullah spoke in a press conference following the announcement of reaching an expanded $8 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund. He added that the bank is leaving the exchange rate to be determined by the market mechanisms, but can intervene based on the market's rules, as the central banks in any country have the right to intervene if there are illogical movements.
We are at the beginning of the right course for the country to be economically balanced and strong with the efforts of everyone and the understanding of everyone.
And you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sport. In the game of milestones, England's Johnny Bairstow and India's Ravichandran Ashwin are set to share their centennial test match when two teams clash in Dharamshala on Thursday. Though Indians are ahead in the 5-match series by 3-1, England would like to make the match memorable by playing a competitive and entertaining encounter, hopefully capping it with a win. More in this story.
The fifth and final test between India and England will be a testament to a rare moment in sporting annals. In the game of milestones, two players from opposing teams, England's Johnny Bairstow and India's Ravichandran Ashwin, are set to share their 100th match in Dharamshala. India have already clinched the series 3-1 with a 5-wicket victory in the fourth test in Ranchi. But they would press for 4-1 scoreline, while England too fancy themselves in the conditions which are similar to their home. India is unlikely to fiddle with their bowling combination of two pacers and three spinners. Jasprit Bumrah will return to strengthen the pace attack with Mohammad Siraj. Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja and Kuldeep Yadav will share spin duties. But the hosts have concerns in the batting. Rajat Patidar aggregates only 63 runs in 6 innings in his debut series. Top order batsman Devdutt Padikkal could be an option. For England, the bowling has fared fairly well, but batters have been inconsistent. Though there have been a few sparking innings from Zach Crawley, Ollie Pope and Ben Duckett, but Bairstow and skipper Ben Stokes have been below par. It has been the first series defeat under Stokes and head coach Brendan McCullum, but the tourist would like to make the match memorable with a win. Sports Desk, DD India.
And taking stock of the ongoing DEF T20 Cricket World Cup being held in Sharjah, DD India correspondent Sharad Mudgal reported that the Indian cricket team had reached the stadium to play for the first match between India and Bangladesh, which was to take place on Wednesday. But however, due to internal reasons of Bangladesh DEF cricket team, the team could not come to the stadium. The DEF International Cricket Committee took cognizance of the matter and decided to declare the Indian DEF cricket team the winner of the match and gave 2 points. India's top badminton player PV Sindhu advanced to the women's singles second round after grinding out to 3-game win over Canada's Michelle Lee at French Open Super 750 badminton tournament on Wednesday. Kidambi Srikanth too progressed to the men's singles second round with stunning win over Taipei's Cho Tien Chen. India's HS Pranoy, however, fell short to make an early exit. In the next round, Srikanth will fight it out against China's world number 17 Lu Guangzhou, who ended the campaign of HS Pranoy with a fine 21-17, 21-17 win at the adjacent court. Manchester City cruised into Champions League quarter-finals with a 3-1 victory over FC Copenhagen on Wednesday in their last 16 second leg. City took care of business early with first-half goals by Manuel Akanji, Julian Alvarez and Erling Haaland, starting the game with 2-goal cushion. Former Southampton player Mohamed Elyounousi pulled one back for the Danish champions in the 29th minute, but City's goal-scoring machine Haaland slotted a home low hard shot through two defenders seconds before half-time, his 29th goal of the season across all competitions. City will find out their quarter-final opponents in the draw on March 15. The dancing light beams and colourful digital displays were among the dazzling array of artwork showcased at the UAE's annual Art Dubai event. Fair exhibits work from more than 120 galleries across the world, featuring digital, contemporary and modern works. The work uses algorithms of people's heartbeats, transforming this into a tapestry of waveforms and colors, the artist explained. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.